Was Mason Mount a mistake buy for Manchester United this summer? And getting into the pros and cons of Mason Mount and his time so far at Manchester United. Yes, hello everyone, welcome back to the United Vibe. For one of my special videos, I wanted to do a little bit of content looking into players, a bit more of a player profile video as such, and especially on the players that Manchester United have brought in under Ten Hag and why we brought these players in. I want to get your opinions and your comments in below on everything that I bring up and the points I make about different players. Today we're starting with Mason Mount. Why Mason Mounts? Because this man took up half of Manchester United's budget this summer. And this is a guy that's only made 7 starts this season, 12 appearances. So why did Erik Ten Hag bring Mason Mount into Manchester United? Is 12 starts enough from the amount of games that we've had? He's no longer in the England setup. So what is it that Ten Hag's seen in Mason Mount that no one else did? Because Chelsea were only too willing to let one of their star academy graduates go through on this transfer. So it makes me wonder why Ten Hag has gone in all in on Mason Mount and why he's spent so much on him in a position that confuses me even more, because the position is where I have an issue with this. The position is that number 10 or that right hand side. That's where everyone knows where Mason Mount plays. That's where everyone knows that Mason Mount gets most of his goals, most of his assists when playing for Chelsea. Well, especially in the attacking midfield role, because an average of 47 games a season at Chelsea over the last 3 seasons, 25 goals, 31 assists, it's a lot and it looks good. But all of them goals and assists, pretty much barring 4, have come from that attacking midfield role. And right now we have a captain who Ten Hag, and we know Ten Hag will not drop in Bruno Fernandes, who plays that number 10 role. We also have Christian Eriksen, who can play in that role as well. And we also have Hannibal coming through now as well. So it's not like we're short in that department. So then you move across to, well, where else can he play? And what other role can he do? The right-hand side. That's the mind blower for me. The right-hand side of Manchester United is covered in abundance with players. We can afford to leave a £75 million signing in Jadon Sancho out completely of the squad at the moment and not even be training with us. We've got that much cover on the right-hand side. Rashford can play there. We've got Palestra. We've got Antony. So why the hell has Ten Hag brought Mason Mount into Manchester United? You see, this is where I have a problem with Manchester United and their whole transfer structure. And this is probably why we have to look at, hopefully, Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in and changing everything that is Manchester United and how we do our transfer dealings. For me, I'm looking at this and going, like I brought up in the last section there, why are Chelsea willing to let one of their brightest stars go in? I remember listening to the radio and hearing Chelsea fans going absolutely mental about Mason Mount going, especially to a so-called rival. But then I'm thinking, well, last season he spent about 3 or 4 months out with a hip injury. Have Manchester United's transfer department looked into that? Have we done due diligence in all of this in Mason Mount? And again, it brings the microscope back down onto Manchester United's transfer committee and how we actually look at players and what we bring in. Is it right that we now need to bring in a transfer committee that is going to be working around the sporting director rather than the manager direct? Is this the problem? Because every single signing that Ten Hag has brought in so far has been from his knowledge of the player and seen him play. I mean, Casemiro, probably an exception to the rule, but I think that was in pure desperation last summer because we didn't get Frankie de Jong. For me, the issue is how much power Ten Hag has got. I mean, that hip injury for one, I mean, that's a concern at the age of 24. And I look at that and I go, that ultimately for me is Manchester United not doing their homework. Manchester United not actually looking in depth at players. I mean, it was only Sir Alex Ferguson who came out about 2 months ago talking about how Manchester United players have to be a different breed of player. You have to know the ins and outs of that player, what his mental state is. And this is a player that's come straight from Chelsea in Mason Mount. All he knows is Chelsea, moving up north, different area of the country, and a different level and a different standard that's needed. That's what Sir Alex was going on about. And that's a concern again for me, that Manchester United just haven't looked into depth on this transfer. And for them to again lump the whole transfer budget, half of that budget, on Mason Mount, that is a massive, massive concern. And I just feel like Manchester United right now are in a position where we cannot be wasting money. We can't be wasting pennies on players that are going to perform and only start 7 games so far this season. That's half of the budget. I keep saying it. The player, if you're spending that amount of money on one, has to be playing week in, week out, surely. Yes, you do. You have to do your homework. Maybe Ten Hag, though, has done this. Things don't happen overnight in football, do they, as well? And a plus point of this is that obviously we know how good Mason Mount is. The stats don't lie. We know what he can produce. We know on a good day what Mason Mount is. Can Ten Hag find that in Mason Mount? The big question I think here is, will Ten Hag have enough time to find the best out of Mason Mount? Will he get the opportunity to actually bring that player out? Because we know managers don't last long. And can you afford to bring in a player that you know is not going to hit the ground running, that you're not going to use week in, week out? Can you afford to spend that much money? That's the question, because Ten Hag's tenure at Manchester United is up in the air at the moment. So why are Manchester United giving so much power to these managers? Is this the problem? Is looking at Mason Mount and doing this video really just an avenue into the real issue, which is Manchester United right now, which is the amount of say that managers have on transfers is ultimately destroying the philosophy of how this club is expected to play football. The standards are dropping and dropping and dropping. We're making excuses every single year simply because managers are having to deal with players that have been bought by other managers. Take that out of the equation maybe, and then put the power in a sporting director. This is everything right now. This time for Manchester United and what is going on, I think Mason Mount is proof that Manchester United need change. As well as good a player is Mason Mount, and he is a very, very good player. He could be world class on his day, but can we afford to wait around for another manager to come in and find Mason Mount? Is Ten Hag going to actually play him? 7 starts this season and we're coming up to December now. For me, for that amount of money, it's not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough for me. That amount of money on a player like Højlund, like Onana, that needs to be a player that's in the first team squad straight away. So the issue with Mount really isn't the transfer itself and the quality of the player. The issue with Mason Mount is what's going on here at Old Trafford. Mount, I feel, is a victim of how poorly this football club is run. To answer the question that I asked at the start of this video, why did Manchester United buy Mason Mount? Was it a mistake? The player wasn't a mistake because he's a top quality. The organisation and the structure behind me here at Old Trafford was the mistake, because we did not need Mason Mount. You guys may disagree. You guys may think a different or have a different look on this. Drop your comments in below. And guys, again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the United Vibe. This is something just a little bit different that I'm throwing in on the channel right now. Hope you like it. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I'm going to bring you different content in different ways. I want to look at things differently. It's not all black and white. There is more to talk about. Let me know what you think, guys. And if you're tuning in for the first time, as always, like, share, and subscribe to the United Vibe. Hit that bell notification button. I'm out of here. I'll see you in the next one.